hope you can hear me. I hope I'm not blasting this mic out. Anybody who does watch this, I know it's midnight. It's Memorial Weekend, and I don't expect anybody to be watching this. This is just something I felt like I wanted to do. Uh, I've been going through some stuff, right? And here I am alive. I figured that guy was he was full of shit, right? He's I should stop saying Canadian because people are people, regardless of where they're from, what they look like. Canadian doesn't mean anything. I love Canada, uh, and I do sympathize a lot with Canada's plight because they're stuck in this place where they're forced to be diplomatic, right? Like they really don't have any military of sorts. And you got us down here, Big Brother. I don't know what, and they we have our ways, right? And we're constantly in conflict with somebody, which kind of pulls them into conflict or not in conflict, and then they're married and part of the British Empire, which we know that history. So the fact that they've been able to stay alive and kicking and playing diplomat amongst all the nonsense is a pretty amazing thing. But the Canadians that I've dealt with of late have been uh, let's just call them, they are the epitome of what is bad in all of this entire globe. Not bad people on the surface, and that's not what this entire thing's about. It's not about them. It's not about my current circumstances. It's not intended to be about that. It's just through the situation that I've found myself in. I have I've come to some realizations, and that's part of that really is the whole gist of this little, we'll call it a rant for now. We'll call it a rant. But I'm also technically I'm messing around with some things to see if levels are right, to see if I'm going to get some banners out here. I'm going to, maybe if somebody chimes in, I'm going to see if I can get them on and shoot the shit with them. Um, but really, some of the epiphanies I've had in the past few days have been huge. And and here's a mistake that we make as people that are trying to better ourselves, right? Like that's a lifelong journey to be the best person you can possibly be. It never stops. That's a journey that we're always going to um we'll never not be on that path to being the best that we can possibly be, because we don't even know what that is, and I don't know that that exists on this plane. So it never stops. So we're constantly going to be faced with these challenges, and as of late, I've been faced with challenges that have brought out. I don't even want to say the worst in me, because the worst in me would have dealt with this problem on the earthly plane in a much more efficient but not permanent way. Like, to sit back and have to do nothing in the midst of somebody attacking your livelihood, um, attacking. I don't even know if you can call it an attack, because they're not even attackers. They're cowards, right? They hide behind these corporate shields, the legal system, and then they use financial duress as a means of, well, you have to come get me now through the courtroom, blah blah blah. So you can't even call them. They're not. That puts too much man in them to call them somebody who would attack, because they all they do, they're like passive aggressive. They got these marshmallow suits of armor, right? And they'll throw things out there. And when you say, hey, you stole my money, right? They'll say, well, no, this paper says I did. And then you say, well, no, you stole it, give it back. um, no, no, you're gonna have to prove it. Well, no, I don't have to prove it. We know that you stole the money. Give my money back. um, and then they'll keep with the bullshit, and then somebody like me who has access, who can be aggressive, and who can, if I wanted to, come take it back from you. um, Now they want to call the police. You know what I mean? Or well, they do. The first thing they do is they send their little lapdog to make a threat that is not that is not credible to begin with. But uh, but they start grasping at straws and trying all these different modes of things to deflect you. But what it always winds up being in my case, because I'm coming to get what's mine, is I'm a bad guy now. Oh, I can't believe you would. And then they call the cops and, oh, he's attacking me. He's coming after me. And then they hide behind that corporate shield, right? And they in the meantime, this is not just the Canadians. This is my old business partner. In, this is an incompetent. He's whatever. I built a company for him, and he was never going to achieve the position he wanted to achieve in the company. So when the time was right, when we had a staff built big enough to because he was never he was the only person in the company that could never say what his responsibilities were because he never did anything. So when it was big enough to where he could pass the buck on to everybody else to handle what I did at the company, he thought in his head, because that then he made his move and he falsely accused me of misusing funds, and which hasn't been proven true and won't be. Um, and then they used my integrity. Did you hear that? I'm domestic as fuck, because that's my dryer going off right now. I do laundry, motherfuckers, on Memorial Day, Saturday, Memorial Weekend Saturday. I'm getting my laundry on. Yeah, Equanimity Studios in the basement. Don't judge me. So anyway, uh, so all that happened, and tonight, well, let me just talk about the threat. So the threat, first and foremost, the threat. So the threat, look, I laughed it off, and I know where it's coming from, and I've heard them before, and there's never any merit. But you never know, right? You don't take threats for granted. See, here's what I one of the epiphanies I came to. My ego was raging out of control, right? And I'm going through this dynamic where I let me try to kill this delay. I think I think I did. If anybody sees anything going stupid, let me know so I can fix it. Um, but I'm going off tonight anyway. So so the threat came in, and where I come from, we don't threaten. It's funny when people say I'm threatening, and what are you talking about? Threaten? Who threatens? Who says they're going to do something that they're not going to do? To try to scare. Like, I've never been able to intimidate anybody. Look at me. I'll knock a motherfucker out quick. And I've done it time and time again throughout my entire life. But I'm still not. I don't have that demeanor. I don't try to intimidate anybody. I don't want to fight. Like, every time I've ever fought, for the most part, it's been, I don't want to do this. Please don't make me do this. Okay, and you can ask friends of mine, like, from the past, like, I would be in deep in conversation about how I don't want to do this when I would knock a motherfucker out, and it's just how I am, right? So I've never been able to hide behind intimidation, right? I don't. It's just not. I have a reputation, but that's gone. That's way in the past, and that's what my ego lives on that reputation. When I signed this agreement with these corporate criminals, um, in the back, what I learned just recently is in the back of my head, because I have access to the streets in the way that I do, and in a way that most people don't realize, even people close to me don't even realize. Only people that were out there doing it the way that we were doing it, on the level that we were doing it when it came to hustling, um, only they realize that motherfuckers lost their lives, right? If you did certain things, you didn't see that person again. Um, Me, for example, uh, on the streets, I'm owed two bodies. Like, meaning there were two people that were supposed to have been killed that stole or had that they fucked up money, and I was the one on watch, right? And it came from me. And anyway, I personally don't believe that anybody should die over money. And I wasn't going to have that on my hands. So for these two people, one that I hated, one that's still a good friend of mine and went on to be a great success, I paid their debts because I didn't want that on my hands. But it was real shit. Like that was real shit. People died, and they're still out there dying. I still have friends that are out there hustling every day, trying to make a living or trying to be that big, just trying to get out of their circumstances by any means necessary. Some of them are really good people. Some of them are just down and they're gone. They're in that for life, and that's all they're ever going to be. And they're living by the gun and dying by it. And I don't judge them. But for me, when I was hustling, there was always a means to an end. This was always going to be okay. When I have enough, then I can move over here and do this movie thing, or I can do. I didn't know I'd get into a movement. I didn't know I'd get into spirituality in the way that I have. I didn't know that I would love and embrace being a father in the way that I have. I didn't know any of that, but I did. Um, but I also still have that part of me that's from the streets that I made it out. Not because I weaseled my way out. I never snitched. I never killed anybody. I never. I don't have blood on my hands from money owed. I don't. I've never. I kept my code, right? And I was able to walk out with my head held high. And I watched people die around me, go to prison for life. I've watched entire fucking cartels, motorcycle clubs be taken down around me, literally around me, and me walk away relatively unscathed, not completely, but you got to go into hiding for a minute because now the feds are wherever. Anyway, so the point I'm making is when my ego was saying, "Do they know who they're fucking with?" No, they don't know they have no fucking clue, because I'm not that guy anymore. Number one, and even when I was that guy, I wasn't all the way that guy. And number two, to people like this, suburbanites, they live in a state of they hear these things and they see them in movies and but it's all fiction. It's all fiction. And what I had to come to grips with in myself is that, well, I've never introduced them to that motherfucker. Even because I would handle my business, but but at the end of the day, I wasn't going to take anybody's life or have anybody's life taken over money. It was fucking. It just. It was. I even had this spiritual code before I became spiritual. And I'm not sitting here trying to grandstand, right, or be holier than thou. I realize that I have friends that are deep in the game that their hands aren't clean, and their hearts aren't clean, and they don't feel good about things they've done. Some people don't give a fuck, right? So I had to come to grips with the fact that, well, quash your ego, motherfucker, because um, they don't know that person. Yet still, they are the epitome of what plagues this country to this day. Currently, it's what allows the boss of a corporation to to infringe on their employees' um, sense of sovereignty of being a man or a woman, and make them do things they don't want to do. Just working them to death, because they know that they have their life in the balance. They have this paycheck, and it's what they live off of. And if they don't get that paycheck on Friday, one missed paycheck means they might miss their rent or their house payment or their car note or and then they might get a ticket from the municipality, and now they owe that ticket before everything else. And then this spiral effect, it fucking goes out of control, and now they don't know what the fuck to do, because now they can't feed their kids. They can't do. It's this insane this noose that in these gallows where one kick could be the end of it for somebody. And and that's kind of what happened to me. And I'll be honest, I even fantasized with the idea when I built this company. I said, there were times back in the early days um where I was still very much in intense therapy for post traumatic stress disorder. And I would have these benders uh, where I would have, before I knew it, emotional flashbacks. And then the only thing that would pull me out of these emotional flashbacks or send me into a state of flight flight, fight, freeze, collapse was alcohol. It was the only thing on the planet that could black me out to the point where I would succumb fully to this flashback. Once I figured that out, I stopped drinking alcohol. You know, I I, I dabble with it sometimes now. It's not a thing. It was never a thing. It was just when I found out what that substance did in the midst or in the throes of an emotional flashback. I said, okay, well, I got to push this out while I figure out what's going the pattern here so I can undo it. And I did it. So back in the day, in the early days of this company, I was in intensive therapy. I was really working on myself to be a better dad for my kid, and I would have, I think I had three in the beginning of this company, and what my business partner, I just want to, he's a scumbag. He is, but he's not. Like, here's the spiritual truth. He's just doing what he does. Like, he right now he's in survival mode. He doesn't have anything but this company, so he's clamoring to everything. Whether he built it or not, he didn't. But in his head, this is the only way he's going to survive because he's not employable. He'll never have an opportunity like this again in his life. So I'm not going to say that I like him, but I can say that I understand that a person in his position is like that person who's living paycheck to paycheck. He'll never have this again in his life, and he's got a wife at home that just constantly berates him for being, you know what I mean? So I understand. Doesn't mean I fucking don't despise him right now, and won't spend a good portion of my life until I feel um, adjudicated. um, Dismantling anything of his that comes into my. I'm not going to spend a lot of time thinking about him, but I will right now. It's, because they were effective at putting that noose on me. Um, it has forced me to think about him more than they would like me to. So, but I understand, and he's got these this slime ball CPA. I'm just going to speak frankly. I'm not going to try to fucking talk in spiritual. I'm going to speak from the heart right now, and I'm just going to let it fly out, and then I'll come back and I'll speak in spiritual speak later. But right now, I'm just going to speak from the fucking heart, because here's the problem with us spiritual people is tonight I had this epiphany with my son. So I'm sitting out back, and what this has done, it's been a long time since I've gas money's been a problem, and I know I have millions sitting in the balance. I know I have intellectual properties here, there, and I know that there's things that I can access that I'm not in a position I was in when I was a kid, because when I was a kid I was dirt poor and my family was dirt poor and they didn't have anything beyond that, and we were in survival mode, survival. So I'm not there, but in my mind I was pushed back into that place. So $25 for a field trip for my daughter comes up, and I'm like, that's not a fucking thing I have had to think about in a long time, but I had to think about it this time, and I had to go to her mom, and so that kind of shit right there starts digging into my deepest fucking uh, um, defense mechanisms, right? Like, now it's triggering all this shit, and I've been living. And I told this piece of shit Canadian guy, I said, I'm speaking frankly, I told him I'm in a flashback right now. This is the first flashback I've had in about 6 years or 5 years. Thank you. And rather than take that as, oh shit, maybe I should pull back, or or maybe maybe I should be scared because this fucker could snap. This corporate piece of shit takes it as, ooh, now I can really turn the noose because I know he's suffering and they can't get to me because the courts will protect me. And but that's what they do. That's what they do. That's the epitome of this problem. Um, so so that happened, and I've been going through this, and every day I'm waking up, and I'm like, and I'm on the verge of like plotting murder. You know what I mean? Did I do it? No. Do I think it's right? No. Does it mean that the thoughts don't come? They come. And the healthy part about this is, in the past they wouldn't come because I would fight, flight, freeze, or it was almost always fight, and then I would wind up in some kind of fucking oblivion where I don't know. Take a breath for a second. Um, I would wind up in some place that just wasn't healthy, and it wasn't good for the people around me. And that's very much where I could have ended up if I acted on, number one, what I'm capable of. I mean, these guys don't know that they're like the old me, they're if at any point I snapped and wanted to make that phone call and do some real damage, I couldn't. I won't. I hope. Um, Sometimes I don't trust myself while I'm going through this. But anyway, the point is tonight, me and my son got to connect on a deep level. You know, I don't know how to cook shit. That gene missed me in my family. Everybody else in my family, they're gourmet chefs. All the men. And me, no, I've been used to buying it, supplying it, providing the atmosphere, and that's the best I got. So tonight, my son volunteers to cook ribs. Okay. So he's teaching me kind of how to do things, and we're learning the grill together. And when we finally got it all going, I'm sitting back and I'm just watching. You know, got a little teary eyed, and I'm like, and I could, I could feel where, and this is what spirituality will do to you. You through the worst of times, you start to realize why they happened, what they bring you close to, and why they matter. And this was one of those things because it happened with my daughter too. Like in my head, I'm thinking, I don't want them to see me like this, but that vulnerability is important for those kids to be able to see in someone that they consider a rock and who can often be misconstrued as, "Urgh," you know what I mean? You know how dads are. Um, some vulnerability, and they need at points in their lives to be given the opportunity to help, right? And this is a challenge for me, and so I was forced because I don't have it in me to allow people to help me just naturally. I was forced to open up to them offering, and it's making me teary eyed now. Them offering to help me, and it was a beautiful thing. But here's the thing with beautiful things, and this is what we can't allow as spiritual people. We cannot allow motherfuckers like that license to abuse us because we're we are strong in spirit, right? That's why I did this. That's why this poem is behind me. Rose that grew from the concrete. That like that's ev- fucking everything to me. Like that and Pac is probably the greatest influence I've ever had in my life for everything I've done and everything I'll do going forward. And I'll speak on that shortly. But that poem, like the rose that grew from the concrete, us who are strong in spirit, we'll grow under shit. It doesn't matter. Like if our spirit's strong, we're gonna rise. We're gonna rise. We're gonna rise. But just because we rise, it doesn't mean that the people who infringe on us should be allowed to have their space as well, to where they can attack when we're weak and then get out of the way when we're strong, right? Like so. So as much as this epiphany hit, and I realized why all of this was happening, I still cannot allow scumbags, and I'm speaking frankly from a worldly perspective, scumbags like that to take advantage of me because they'll do it to somebody else and somebody else and somebody else and somebody else who doesn't have the resolve that I have. So, so is you're going to hear me say things in days to come, weeks to come, years to come, and you're going to see me act in ways that are probably not spiritual, but at the core level, I'm like Christ said, I'm in this world, but I'm not of it. And since I'm in this world, and since I've been placed in a position to where I can actually fight these motherfuckers, I'm going to, and I'm going to fight them with everything I have. And I just need to be careful, not to fall into that place where it becomes an ego fight, right? Like that, and that's what this epiphany helped me with tonight is this ego fight. Um, that's not what this is about. It's not about ego. It's not about, oh, you infringed on me, blah, blah, blah. It's about you infringed on everybody that I know in my life that struggled to get out, that is still in the struggle right now, trying to get out of it. You are that motherfucker. You are that. And because you are that, I now have you in my fucking crosshairs. Right. And no, I can't spend every fucking day thinking about you. I'm not going to let you infringe on my love for my family and let you fuck with those levels of you're not going to do that. You don't have that power. But when it's convenient for me, just like when it's convenient for you to give my money back because the court said to, we're not going to get to that point. I'm getting my money back, motherfucker, or your business will be gone. Businesses will be gone before the court ever allows us to see the light of day. um I can't allow you to do that. because there's other people that will allow you to do that. And for all of us spiritual, and I don't fault, I'm not grandstanding with the spiritual people either. Um, Not everybody has the resilience. They don't have the resources that I have. And there's a passion in me for this kind of thing because it's everything that I stand against. It's everything that I had to resist and endure, and even sometimes smile in the face of, to get to the other side of it, and then to have it show up right now. Well, I don't think it's showing up as a this too shall pass type of thing, because it will pass. But do I? And I guess this is a question too for some of my spiritual advisors out there. Um, is this something I'm supposed to let pass? Because when we let it pass, it grows and it festers, and it plagues our fucking brothers and sisters, and I don't I'm not okay with that. So, um, I mean that's the brunt of what's going on right now. But this leads to the movement, right? So I've been buried in the Pac documentary, right? Thank you, Heather, for pointing me in that direction. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna take a quick break here. We're on the Pac documentary. I'm gonna go to these banners, and I am going to add a banner where you can join the movement. Um, this is important. I'm gonna speak on our plight, and it's a shared plight, and it's the same plight that I'm in, the same fight that Pac was fighting, which may seem weird, and I don't mean any disrespect to any of my black brothers and sisters that are watching this. It's but it is the same. It's but here, and I know that I'm different because I'm white, and I'll tell you another epiphany that I had. Um, and let's scroll. I feel like a genius when hello, check me out. There's probably other shit I can do, but I'm gonna pat myself on the back for that motherfucker right now. So anyway, I don't want to break the fourth wall. Anyway, shout out to my brother Derek Denham for coming on the other night, and he's got that hip hop 50 show coming up July 15th down at sorry Derek, I forgot the venue, but it's on our website, and we're gonna keep sharing it. But it's KRS1, Rakim, Slick Rick, uh, Dougie Fresh. I mean, like, check it for real. It's a lineup for hip hop heads that you don't want to miss it. And it's right here in Detroit. So, but I want to thank Derek for making the distinction between hip hop, the music hip hop, the music of, or the art of hip hop, and then what some would call gangster rap or rap music. And I want to say that I understand the distinction now. He said that hip hop was more about the art. It was more about the. It wasn't about killing people, and it wasn't about who had more money, and it wasn't about but in and it's true. Like, hip hop was a different. It was more about the music and the sport of rhyme and wordplay and uh and then rap, gangster rap came onto the scene, and but in all honesty, that was just the evolution of hip hop, right? That was okay. So now it came out of a place of suffering. Um, well, so did gangster rap, obviously, and it was a group of maybe more empowered black men and women that now felt like, okay, well, we have a voice, because prior to hip hop there really was no voice per se in entertainment that belonged to black culture, right? So when hip hop came along, it's and I listened my whole life to what was Motown was the big thing around my house, and then Elvis And when we were, I mean, I was a hood rat before I knew what the word hood rat. Well, I don't even know if hood rat was a word when I was a kid, but we were hood rats. Like so, I grew up. I got the luxury of growing up in Detroit as a white kid, as a minority, and really getting to experience black culture, in that way as a minority. And I thought it was just, they're friends of mine, and I invite anybody to chime in. Probably not tonight, but any of my friends, any of my colleagues, to sound off on this. If you get to this point, I'll probably break this down too because I'm going all over the place. But I invite anybody to sound off on my theory on hip hop and gangster rap and what I will call hip hop culture. Like that's what hip hop created, was hip hop culture, which gangster rap is a part of, rap is a part of. Whatever the Migos are now, that's whatever that is, they're that's a part of it. You know what I mean? It all sprung from hip hop. So back to what I was saying is I grew up in the inner city. I didn't grow up on the outskirts. I didn't grow up in the suburbs. I grew up in the inner city, and I remember we were at Seven and Mac, right? So went to Marquette Elementary, and we would and the rich people right in Grosse Pointe, they lived across 7 Mile, so we would Christmas carol over there. Well, in the off season, me, my cousin, and my brother, we would throw on our fishnets, our fishnet tank tops, and we'd break out the cardboard at 7-Eleven, and we'd break dance for money. And you know what I mean? We were little hood rats. We were getting our money, and we'd also, there's crazy shit that went on down there, but we but so it's so so black culture in America has been a part of my DNA since day one. Um, at I'd say about fourth grade. It's about fourth grade. My mom finally got away from my dad, and and she moved us into kind of the burbs. There's the outskirts of the suburbs, right? It's the outskirts of Detroit where you have Hazel Park, you have Ferndale, you have Warren, you have yeah, all the way around. What else is it? Redford. You have all these cities that border Detroit, and most of them are poor, working class and below, and but they're populated. When I was a kid, predominantly by white people. So there was this weird dynamic of 8 Mile was a racial dividing line. It was that, um, but you had these white kids that related very much to black culture and didn't know it. So when there was this dividing line, we knew that there was black and white, and there were parents in our neighborhoods that would speak against "Don't cross 8 Mile," and you know what I mean, and vice versa. For black kids, it would, well, you got to watch out for this, and when cops talk to you, that so there were all these things that our parents had grown up with, and then when gangster rap, we'll call it gangster rap, because hip hop didn't influence me in the same way as gangster rap did. By the time gangster rap came out, it was NWA, Eazy-E, EPMD. I remember were my first tapes, my cassette tapes. Jay Desire brought him back with him from. He lived in Oakland, California, so I was like one of the first people in fucking Hazel Park to have access to this kind of music, and it changed my fucking life because so my mom had finally left my father. And she got us into the burbs, and and credit to mom, that was a superhero move on her part. That's the best she could do with what she had. Um, she got us over there, and I want to digress to one thing. So again, another thing that these little turds don't know that want to make threats. So what I grew up with was if my dad said he was going to kill you, he might kill you. In my family, you don't make threats like that unless you're going to follow through, and you don't take them lightly. So at a young age, my dad broke into my house. This is and I caught him trying to kill my mom while my aunt and my cousin and my brother were they were holding each other upstairs, and I snuck down and acted like I had to go to the bathroom, knowing that he might kill my ass too. Um, and when I poked my head out, he had a knife to her throat, and she was screaming and crying. And she's like, go upstairs, Vinny. And he says, the fuck upstairs right now, motherfucker. I said, I have to go to the bathroom. He let me go. I locked the door. I climbed out the bathroom window. I ran across the street and had the neighbors call 911. That was the last time I saw him for years. Um, my aunt stabbed 37 times by her husband, my uncle, by marriage, my dad's friend. Uh, these are gangsters, right? You want to be gangster motherfuckers. This is what people who wind up in that life actually grow up with. So when you make a fucking threat, you little fucking dumbass, we take that shit seriously and we start to take precautions, even though we know you're probably full of shit. We start to take precautions to make sure that the shit that we saw when we were kids don't happen again as adults, because we're not going to get caught slipping like that. So anyway, they don't know that either, right? So when I'm going through my shit, I have to remember that, well, nobody knows what your fucking background is. So everybody's just out there yapping their fucking mouths off without really knowing. I love the saying, when I was a kid, when I was in juvie, we used to use it all the time: yipping and yapping and don't know what's happening. You know what I mean? Like, or dipping and dabbing and don't know what's happening. So anyway, back to what I was saying. So, in regards to, I was sorry, I went off on a tangent about the murder stuff. Um, we what the fuck was I at before that? Yeah, let me take a sip of water. I told you this would be heavy. I'd be rambling and rambling and rambling. It'd be heavy. Um, about us being hood rats, blah 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 blah. Oh, so we get over to the burbs, and I get these first tapes by Easy NWA. My mom at this time had met my stepfather Mark, who I consider my father. Mark is a Cherokee. He was a rock star too. One of the his bands merged to form Sponge. For anybody who knows '90s rock, whatever. Um, they used to practice in our bedroom when we were kids. They'd pull out a Sponge, Vinny and all the fucking guys from Sponge and Mark, and they would pull out our and we'd be out there jamming, faking, lip syncing to whatever. Anyway, like I said, we're unique motherfuckers. We came over with talking like black with black slang, but we had long hair, spiked belts from doing Quiet Riot and talent shows at the fourth grade. This is real shit. Um, Unique. So there's no mistake why people targeted us to pick on us, and then we so it happened. Our dad was a bad motherfucker and taught us how to fight, so that was your ass. But so it was a real unique dynamic. But when she met Mark, Mark's a now Mark was a person that would snap too if called upon to stand up for his family, but other than that, loved peace, right? So I'm out here and I'm fighting almost every day. And once I got to high school and a lot of times in junior high, and I needed somebody who was going to tell me to go fuck people up, and he was telling me the right thing. That's not the right way. So gangster rap came onto the scene. I'm poor in the suburbs, kind of suburbs. But one of the things when I noticed, when you're white, there's this entitlement, and you're not supposed to be poor. So even the poor white kids will find the poorest white kid and make fun of them for not having what they have. So I was that poor white kid that just happened to be able to beat your fucking ass. So I didn't. But I'd still wound up running home from school from a carload of friends who are actually my friends today. But anyway, um, there was that dynamic where when gangster rap came out, they were talking about being poor. They were bragging about being poor, and they made it feel like I wasn't alone, right? So now I felt like, oh wow, these motherfuckers, and they had that bravado, right? And then they also gave me some hustling tips. Well, this is how you cannot be poor. So I started hustling. I got into selling drugs, which was easy in my neighborhood because we were all poor. Even white kids we were on the border of Detroit, and there became this thing where, well, we weren't afraid to cross into Detroit. We weren't afraid of nobody, and black people would deal with us, And now there became this. We had the ability to bring, for me, it was designer drugs into the suburbs. You know what I mean? We capitalized on that shit. So and we were all bound by this poverty thing that we had to bypass the bullshit, the fucking skin color shit. We had to bypass it all, and we had to use what we had to try to get onto even an even keel with the motherfuckers that I'm talking about. Not that they're from extreme wealth or anything like that, or even worth a damn, but but their mentality is that they're part of that, right? That's that white entitlement, that whatever. And it's not even white. It doesn't belong to white people. It's just stereotypically kind of like when I say, um, I equate poverty to black people because that was my experience, and unfortunately, that's kind of the truth because after slavery, black people were put into they were segregated and then redlined, and you know what I mean. So even though they're the minority, a lot of times when you think about poverty, you're thinking about minorities. There's a lot of poor white motherfuckers out there too, like me, who lived on the fringes, who really didn't have an identity until gangster rap came onto the scene and gave us this bravado. And immediately we started relating. We saw that we related more to black culture. Now none of us thought about this fucking shit. None of us really contemplated any of it because we didn't have the ability to. We're all just surviving, right? But in high school, we know menace to society verbatim. We know Snoop Dogg, NWA. I mean, Eminem will talk about this shit too, and it's it's a beautiful thing. It really is, and that I have my own little thing that I'm going through right now, and we'll call it little, because it's grueling, it's gut wrenching, and it's something that I will get through. And what I'm battling with right now is not will I get through it. It's not. It's not when does it end. It's not any of that. It's that how do I do this in a way that's both spiritual and in a way that will quash these motherfuckers from infringing on the next person, and not even them specifically, because they're gnats on the grand scheme of everything. Um, how, and how do we do that? We do that by we the motherfucking people. That's how we do that, and that's where I want to end this tonight. Is I wanted to get to the point where on the hip hop thing, hip hop culture. Um, uh, I I I I to my people. Dr. Mathis, Trick. I know you have you're a musical genius. I've seen you at work, and I see what you bring back to the hood, and I see how you handle your business out there, and I see the misperceptions of you, but if you want to chime in, I invite you on. Like me and you can chop it up. You don't have to come out, but sound off on your own. Take whatever you want from this and blast it out there. And because I'm a white dude speaking on hip hop culture, and because it kind of raised me, and I don't have to scrounge or beg for a hood pass. I never did. I was just part of it. And thank you to all my friends like Hex and fucking Hex Paradigm fucking Mikey who else? I mean, there's fuck, the list goes on and on and on. Anyway, um when I would come down there with all my whiteness, because I never wanted to get tatted up, or I was bringing thousands of pounds of marijuana from the West Coast back to Detroit, so we could all eat. So I never got tatted up, and I learned very much a lot of the white vernacular that I have, stereotypically white, quote unquote white. I learned. It was like training for a character, because that wasn't, and I didn't relate to white culture. I fought with white people. I fought way more with white people when I got into the suburbs than I ever did down in the hood. So, and it's not that I don't relate to white people. I relate to everybody, and that's the point I'm making here. Is that what I realized in the luxury and the beauty of my upbringing and the struggles, even right now, is that I can say that I relate to every one of you motherfuckers out there, even the pieces of shit that infringed on me. I know how scared you are, what a scared little man you are to be doing the shit that you're doing right now, to be infringing on somebody who was there for you when you needed them, who built a company for you. Like, this is true shit. Built the company for him, carried his incompetent ass for 7 years because I felt bad for him because he had the same ailment as me, PTSD, and he couldn't see past it. So he couldn't remember things to save his life. So I stayed in this company 2 years longer than I actually wanted to because I didn't think he could make the money back for the investors that eventually wound up forming this coup with him to get me out of there so they could make more money on the short end. And it's fucking crazy. And he's a patsy at best, but they talked him into doing it, and here we are. I feel sorry for him. But I understand. I fucking hate to say that I understand because I just want to hate. I just want to hate more than anything, and I just want to fucking annihilate because I have the ability to fucking do it. And I have friends that are listening to this right now, friends, family, that have contacted me, that are still out there in the fucking struggle every fucking day, just trying to survive, with the feds watching them, with fuck, like it's real fucking shit. That these are my people. That's my fucking people. But you know what? Even these shitbags are my people if they can see the light of day. Because the second they came to me and said, or if they were to come to me and say, "Fuck, man, I fucked up," I don't want to say I'm soft, but all I fight for in this world is for integrity to prevail, for good to prevail, for light to illuminate our space. I'm going to be saying some dark shit to these motherfuckers. And until I feel that I've been paid back through whatever it is I feel I need to be paid back through, or that they've illuminated their own space and that I can see that I can't judge them. I can't, I can't, I can't attack them because they've seen the error in their ways, and I won't infringe on their spirituality. Until I see that, you're going to probably hear me speaking like I'm speaking tonight. Um, I I won't make any apologies for that. I probably will. I probably will. There'll probably come a point where I'm like, "Fuck, I'm sorry. I didn't want. I did not. Everybody had to hear that shit." But anyway, we the people. We the people is we the motherfucking people. It's all the people. It's even them. It's even them. They don't realize they're just puppets. They're pawns in this game by this 1%. That this monstrous fucking spider web of fucking corporate protection and identity that allows something that I would get if I walked into a store, or if I did what these corporate motherfuckers did on a one-to-one basis, I would go to prison immediately. But this system is set up to protect and allow them to steal from us on a daily fucking basis, to steal our hearts, to steal our lives, to steal our livelihood, to fucking steal from our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our you got your mom coming home. My mom's 66. She should be selling shit on Etsy for fucking luxury, just for fun. So she has extra fucking bingo money or some shit. I don't know. Not to survive. You know what I mean? What the fuck is that? And I only say that I know there's third world countries where that's not true, where survival is much different over there, but we're the wealthiest country on the fucking face of this globe. For that to be a true thing, while these motherfuckers extract every bit of fucking value we have out of us and use it for their own fucking motherfucker, it's got to stop. And the only way that we make it stop is we come together. We let bygones be bygones, and we try to find a way to relate in the space of trauma. Like, I'm not a black man, right? It's obvious I'm white, but I know what it fucking feels like to be alienated in this fucking country. I know what it's like to have to struggle every fucking day just to make ends meet. I know what the fuck that feels like. I know what it feels like to not get that job. I know what it feels like to be discriminated against. I don't know what it's like to be a black man and have that feeling, but I do know in that field of trauma, we relate in those mechanisms. Now, the triggers are different because we're different. If we can stop fighting over what the fuck, whose trigger is worse and whatever, look, we got a bigger fight right now. Let's fight about that when it matters. Like right now, it don't matter because all they're doing is pitting us against one another. And these corporate little shitbags right here, It's almost beautiful that they're Canadian and they're white and they're because now what I've realized in my relationship to Pac and what he was doing is Pac was saying fuck that shit. He wasn't taking that short money. No, I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to say the truth no matter what, and I'm going to go out with the truth. And he went out with the truth. The reason I haven't gone out is I have something called white motherfucking privilege, because I'm saying shit to the courts, to the I'm CCing their motherfucking attorneys and saying shit that would have Pac put behind bars for life. You know what I'm saying? Like I had the luxury of stepping out into that space that where a black man can't, and I can get away with standing on something that's what white privilege is for people who don't understand. There's things that we take for granted as white people that seem like a privilege to people who've never had full rights, right? So when I'm out there saying motherfuck this in front of the judge, in front of the fucking attorneys, CCing the motherfucker saying fuck you, come get me, and they can't do a fucking thing, that's white privilege. Is it a privilege? It's a right that should be afforded everybody, because you should be able to speak your fucking mind when somebody steals from you. But let a black man do that shit, or a Mexican, or any minority. Let somebody that's been discriminated against try to stand up for themselves in that venue and see what happens. That's what white privilege is. It's not that you've been privileged, because a lot of my people from Hazel Park, we ain't privileged. We're fucking gutter rats, right? We're hood rats before hood rats were a word. Out there scrounging, just trying to make a fucking living, right? And so we know what it is to have that struggle. So we can't let these words fucking separate us. We got to come together. We got to come together now, and it's got to be peaceful, but it's got to be violent and abrupt in the way that we attack their pocketbook. So that's all they care about, these motherfuckers. All they care about is money. I'm not talking about Democrats, Republicans. The two-party system is horrible. There's a lot of good Democrats and Republicans that can't stand the motherfucking corrupt arms that quash their voices. This is a rescue mission for our government. This is a rescue mission for our Constitution. If we do what the Constitution says, because it hasn't been done since day one, it said we the people. And immediately there's a whole race of people that were discriminated against. So from day one, that piece of paper, that's a brilliant piece of paper, was fucking, it was used for greed. If we can take the greed out of our motherfucking politics, take the profit out of our politics, we can make this fucking thing work for us. But we got to do it, and we got to do it now, because when they get the guns pointed at us, and it's coming, the police state, it's going to be bloody. I think we got a 2-year window, and my lips are getting dry. I think we got a 2-year window. Less than that, probably 18 months, to where we can come together on this ticker or some ticker. It doesn't have to be my fucking thing. If somebody else has something out there that's working better, that has a similar idea, where we show that we know what our ownership of this economy is. If somebody else has that, come talk to me. I'll bring what I have. Let's put it all together and let's make this shit happen. But we got to make it happen, and we got to make it happen now. I'm going to get the fuck out of here now. I'll blast this out later. I didn't even look to see if there were any I don't know what I'm doing. I'm idiot savant. Savant is that's high praise, right? Motherfuckers, shitbags, I'm coming for you. Don't make no mistake that my epiphanies tonight and my feeling of I understand why means that you're allowed to continue to infringe on me. I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. But I'll do it in a way that you show up on my property, you know what the fuck's going to happen, but you've already proven you're bitch made, and just don't. You should try to at least do a background search on the people you're making threats like that against, because me a few years back, 5 years back, maybe I might have come looking for you out of fear for my family, and that would have been a bad thing. So just think about it. But WTB.online/join. I don't see a better way. I don't see a better way. It includes all of us. All of us. There should be nobody who disagrees with signing that ticker, because all it does is show what our economic ownership is. Once we collectively show them what that is, they can't fucking fight anything we say. Once they know that we know that 33 million of us owns 104 billion motherfucking dollars of this economy every month, that's what they expect to get from us. And we know that we have it, and we're not going to give it anymore. they have no choice but to listen. What are they going to do? What the fuck are they going to do? Like, the 33 million. Just think of the community that's built as that 33 million grows. What we start learning to barter and trade, and the new companies that we start to use that support us, right? So my fight right now, right, and I may have gone the dirty route, if it wasn't for the kids ground me. My friends and family that have called and reached out, Kenny, Cantaloupes, thank you. Janice, the mother of my kids, thank you. Mom, Dad, Tony, fucking Shelly. I'm sure I'm probably forgetting somebody in all this, but your words, when I'm speaking to Sean, when my co-host, when I'm speaking to you, you don't know the sanity you provide. Dan, my boy Danny, you know who you are. Like thank you, thank you for that, because it's the sanity I need, and I would like, I'm going to cut some of this up, but I would like, Trick, Dr. Mathis, Diesel, Mikey, who else? Paradigm, fuck, Marshall, fucking Paul, chime in on this hip hop shit, and what it did, what its impact on culture in general was, like the impact beyond the music, right? Because I know for me, it empowered, and it was negatively in some ways, but at the end of the day, it gave me the strength I needed as a poor white kid to puff my chest out and say, and look at the fucking establishment that was causing the real problems. It allowed me to see clearly, right, past my whiteness into what was really going on. So I would appreciate anybody who does chime in, after the fact, obviously, because I'm fucking, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. But anyway, I love you guys. Enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. Bitch made motherfuckers, I'm coming for you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, not to them, but to the people who thought they might get a spiritual outro. Um, I love you guys. Um, Keep her punched. And the words of Kenny Cantaloupe, keep her punched. Let's break this motherfucker down in the most peaceful way that we can, but in the most detrimental way. Let's go after their pocketbooks and let them know that we'll only continue to fatten them if you start to work on fattening our livelihood to the point where we can all feel like we're one and not alienated and beholden to your punk asses. I love you guys. I'll talk to you soon.